Welcome to another solo playthrough of Axis and Allies Stalingrad, Race to Stalingrad scenario. I wanted to do this scenario again and try the alternate deployment rules and all of the optional rules. Last time the Germans got pretty darn shellacked. Last game ended in a total Soviet victory. So in this alternate deployment rules, first the Soviet player can rearrange units on the city board however he likes. And then the German player, the Axis player, can rearrange the armor, stugs, the assault guns, and the mechanized infantry anywhere on the region board that has a German marker. So we're going to do that here shortly. Rearrange the city board, if applicable, rearrange the region board. And we're going to try to remember to play with all the optional rules today. First one is interceptors. At the beginning of their side's reaction phase, fighters adjacent to either a zone or a Volga crossing under enemy air attack may join the combat as defenders, targeting air units when possible. Okay? Interdiction. During their side's reaction phase, instead of firing at a standard air defense target, artillery in an uncontested zone may fire at a bomber performing air transport into an adjacent zone. Could help the Soviets particularly, I think. Heroes of the Soviet Union. At the end of each Allies movement phase, the Allies player rolls one die. On a 6, they must destroy one Soviet unit in an uncontested zone to inflict one immediate casualty on the Axis in that zone. Axis player chooses. Luftwaffe priorities. At the beginning of each Axis reinforcement phase, the Axis player rolls one die. On a 6, they must destroy one air unit they own to gain RPCs. In this case, in this version, every air unit they have to destroy, they'd get 10 RPCs. And bad weather sorties. This will allow aircraft to fly during bad weather. Air units can attack and defend during bad weather rounds, but they suffer a -1 penalty to their attack and defense values. So, I think this will be an interesting game, especially seeing how the German redeployment can stack up. My thinking is, well, during that last game, solo playthrough, the Germans just got kind of held up wherever they were across the Don front, and they weren't even able to make it into the city. I think it was until turn 4, and they weren't able to start taking territories in there till turn 5, and I think they need to be in there a round or two earlier. So we're going to try overwhelming force at a few key places to free up more forces for follow-on attack and try to wipe up the Soviets quicker and try to take less casualties so that there's more strength getting into the city and more strength to defend the critical routes into it when Operation Uranus eventually starts. Maybe this will force the Soviet side to have to launch Operation Uranus early too. So there could be a lot of interesting stuff that happens because of this. We've got our commanders back in the game. Field Marshal List, commanding Army Group A, which is heading down towards the Caucasus. Vatutin, that's the southwestern front. Rokossovsky, that's the... now I'm forgetting which front he commands. I'll come back to that. Yeramenko, that is the Stalingrad front. Zhukov commanding the overall effort, and Chuikov over there, and Krasnaya Sloboda defending Stalingrad, and of course General Paulus commanding 6th Army. So yeah, let's see how this experiment goes. I think it'll be interesting using the optional rules and the alternate deployments. So we haven't yet done these alternate deployments. I'll come back shortly and show you what we have. Okay, so with pre-game redeployment, what I've done with the Soviets in the city is kind of spread them out to try to maybe potentially make it harder for German units to blitz around the city. I'm thinking mechanized infantry and armor that may get in the city so that they can't get behind them and take critical places like Pavlov's house and grain elevator. So I've just kind of spread them out more and moved an artillery down to the grain elevator for potential, if the Germans leave themselves weak somewhere, maybe counterattack if there's enough forces also coming across the Volga by then. But yeah, the thinking here is to slow the Axis force's ability to move through the city and get RPs quickly. So I think this will work out decently well. It may backfire, I guess. We'll see. And I didn't do a big redeployment for the Axis forces on the region board. I just put 2 tanks in Verkhney Kumsky, moved them from Manolin, just to try to get that southern push completed quicker. And my thinking on the first Axis attack is absolutely overwhelming force in a place to free up, so we're not getting so many territories across the board locked in battle, that at least one of them can get freed up to continue to support other ones, and hopefully that'll have a cascading effect and ultimately get them into the city quicker and with more forces surviving. So we'll see how the strategy goes. And a reminder that we are playing with the optional rules. So here goes, Race to Stalingrad scenario, turn 1, round 1. Okay, that was the end of round 1 in the Axis and Allies Race to Stalingrad scenario. Soviets made a bunch more moves in the city and built 3 infantry to start moving across the Volga ferries. They're just trying to make it a kind of defense in depth, I suppose, instead of concentrated strong points, and trying to make it hard for the Axis to move units around the city once they're in. So, haven't tried the strategy with the Soviets before in the city. We'll see how it goes. On the region board, the Axis were able to, in the first round, take a few places. They were able to take Turkin, Usinovka, and Abganarova Station, along with Gromoslavka. So just a few places left. Strategically, they did not invade Ilovinska this time, as they have in several other game rounds before, because of that rule for Soviet reinforcement. If Ilovinska is enemy occupied, they can put more than 1 unit for reinforcement in there. They can put as many as they want. So trying to avoid being able to have the Soviets put a bunch of units right there on the left flank of the 6th Army. So we'll see how that works out. Some ongoing battles, as you can see. So the Germans aren't out of the woods yet, but they have a much clearer path to Stalingrad and open road to Potomac than they did in the last one, for sure. So I think maybe shifting some power to the south has worked out, and doing overwhelming air power in a few concentrated, just 2 concentrated areas instead of across the whole of the Don front, I think has worked out, at least early in the game. We'll see how that turns out, but I think the Germans should be able to get a decent amount of forces in the city in strength, as opposed to certainly last time, where they were paltry when they got in, and paltry on the outside too. So let's see how round 2 goes, continuing on no step back for the Soviets. All right, here we go. Okay, that was the end of round 2. We're about to start round 3. Soviets have consolidated forces in Spartanovka, keep moving defense in depth all over the city, built 3 more infantry, another artillery across the Volga. They want to make it so any Axis air power coming in is going to be taking a lot of shots from artillery and making that defense in depth. Again, I'm excited to kind of see how that works, if it backfires or if it makes it a real impenetrable fortress to try to get into the core of the city. They also dropped off some supply in Mamayev Kurgan. So that was kind of interesting. Some of the battles that were just fought were pretty close, like here in Kalak and Kramenskaya. Soviets are barely holding on in those 2, and they've lost all the other major battles along the Don front. So the Axis should be able to start moving into the city here on this next round in force. But the Spartanovka fortified zone is real fortified. They got 8 units there. That's 7 infantry, 1 tank. But I think the Axis is trying to think, well, they keep getting this free artillery every other turn and free tank every other turn. Try to go for that northern part of the city first and take out that critical unit producing factories. And they got plenty more coming up behind them. So far this is going a lot better for the Axis than last time. Again, we'll continue to see if that continues to occur. We also took our free infantry and Oblovskaya and relocated a bomber there. Since now we've had Potomac, it will have had it since the beginning of the first round. We'll be able to drop that off in the airfield in Potomac, move them directly into Stalingrad. So that's kind of an interesting way to resupply infantry for the Axis into the city. So here we go, round 3. That was the end of round 3, going into round 4. Pitched battles in Gumrak and Spartanovka. That goes back and forth. Soviets continuing to maneuver units around the board into real special places they want to hold on to. Germans were able to take Orlovka, so they're going to start moving those forces into the center of the city, I'm sure. The battle in Kremenskaya is now over, and they built a tank and attacked Bolshoi. The rocket launcher killed one unit, but the tank and the 2 infantry didn't kill anything, and the 1 minor Axis infantry was able to kill 1 Soviet infantry. So, trying to keep the Axis forces on their toes on the extreme left flank. Nothing else going on the region board for the Soviets, but the Germans are preparing another assault into the city, and the minor Axis infantry and artillery helped out their German fellows in Kalak and freed that tank for maneuver now too. We did start pulling Uranus cards. I don't think the Soviets think it's time yet, but it'll probably depend how the next round or 2 goes in the city, if they have to activate Operation Uranus before round 7. I don't think that'll be the case yet, but we'll see. So exciting that this battle in the city is heating up and that there are German forces en masse for once, so that's really cool. So let's see how round 4 goes. Should be fun. Alright, that was the end of round 4, going into round 5. That was a super fun round. Lots of battles continue throughout the city. Soviets have had to pull some back. Spartanovka's nearing the precipice of finally falling. They've put an ambush infantry next to the tractor factory, in between that and the Barakati factory. Try to pull some units back in a tractor into Barakati with the oncoming Axis forces that are about to break through onto that northern part of the city. They moved more forces to continue the fight in Gumrak. They actually got 4 hits, so the German forces in Gumrak are pretty weak. Of course, they have reinforcements available should they need them, but with Operation Uranus not too far around the corner, I don't know how much more the Axis wants to throw in the city. This might be enough to get the job done. Maybe shooting for a major victory, holding an RP zone, which they have a couple of right now. I think they want to grab a couple more, get more money, while also maintaining a supply line through Potomac. So, great fights in the city. This has been a lot of fun. Minor Axis forces and German forces prepared to defend the flanks of the 6th Army. Paulus has moved his headquarters to Potomac. They can throw more in there, like I said, if they want. We'll see if they do. The Soviets, I thought buying a tank over there would kind of throw the Axis off and threaten that far left flank. They just haven't been able to get any hits. And since that first round of combat, neither has the minor Axis infantry. Soviets also built an artillery in Veshnitskaya, moved it in. They couldn't get any hits, but now there's some German armor on the way to support, so maybe that'll make the difference. But I don't know, if I'm the Soviets, I'm thinking, do I launch Uranus? Are things looking pretty dire right now? Maybe it depends what the Axis does with the forces around Potomac. We'll see. But this has been a great game. Loving the fighting in the city. Awesome time. Soviets also dropped off more supply in Mamiov Kurgan. Might make that a little center Alamo, if you will. So here we go, round 5. Okay, we have just finished round 7, about to start round... we have just finished round 6, about to start round 7. I think the Germans have a chance at a total victory on this round. If they can take the last 3 RPs in the city and control a supply line into it. I'm just going to double check that victory condition real quick. And, yep, maintain a supply line into at least 1 RP zone and control all the RP zones in the city. The Soviets still holding on. We're waiting on doing Operation Uranus. Haven't done it yet. Battle continues in Bolshoi. But yeah, I think the Axis are going to try to go for a total victory on this round and try to hold on to that, even despite Operation Uranus being launched on this round. I don't think the Soviets will be able to stop them should the Germans take those last few RP zones in the city. The battle will really come down to Pavlov's house for that total victory this round. So let's see how it goes. Okay, that was the end of round 7, beginning of round 8, coming up soon. Pavlov's house was able to hold. So the Germans were not able to take every RP zone in the city. They do maintain the supply line out for now, but Operation Uranus is off to an absolutely roaring start. Smashed through the minor Axis forces in Beketovka, moving armor and mechanized infantry into Kotluban to join in on the attack in Potomac, and everything to the west of the Don, apart from the airfields, is free of German forces. So I don't know if this is as wrapped up as the Germans thought. They may be able to take Potomac on this round. Pavlov's house. I think the chances are good. And then they need to hold on through the end of the round in Potomac, which, I think they'll be able to do. But we will see. The dice may not be kind to the Axis, but right now Operation Uranus is firing on all cylinders. A desperate attempt by the Soviets to rescue victory from the jaws of defeat, and they're close to doing it. Let's see what happens on round 8. Okay, that was the end of round 8. This is the beginning of round 9. Still no bad weather, which has helped the Soviets, who got 4 bombers with Operation Uranus. They threw some bombers into the city, were able to take out the mechanized infantry and Barakati factory, lost one of the 4 bombers, tried attacking Red October steelworks as well, along with the rocket launchers across the river. Couldn't take that one out. So the Germans still have the city. They moved some forces to Spartanovka because of the potential Soviet threat through Rhinoc. Ended up buying the bluff, I suppose, in a sense. And Operation Uranus forces have completely encircled the 6th Army in Stalingrad. So that total victory condition that the Germans were absolutely on the precipice of achieving has now failed. They do own all the RP territories in the city, but they don't have a supply line out. And now Operation Uranus forces surround General Paulus and his 6th Army. Now, this force here in Potomac is unsupplied, the city is unsupplied, but the Germans dropped off supply tokens on the last round, and they got plenty in Mamayev Kurgan. So they got plenty of supply in the city to fight the combats they need. But unless they can break out or withstand this attack, then that noose is going to get tighter. And the Operation Winter Storm forces under Manstein on round 9 are desperately needed. So our front commanders have moved up with the fight. And Chuikov is still sitting across the Volga. Zhukov still overseeing. Paulus is in Potomac at his command center. So just when you think, wow, the Axis got it, this is over. What a turn of events. I thought about attacking with the Soviets all out for Potomac to try to take away the major supply route out of the city, and I thought to myself, wait, let's just encircle it. Let's use the supply rules baked into this game, and now we've taken away the total victory conditions. So I thought that was pretty cool. Pretty cool move with the Soviets. So, still clear weather, which is crazy, that being that we're halfway through December 1942. But let's see how round 9 goes. Okay, that was the end of round 9, coming on round 10. The Soviets moved some mechanized infantry into the fortified locations of Orlovka and Spartanovka. Germans had to burn a supply. No, they got all 3. They had to burn a supply token over here in Potomac to defend against a major combined arms, armored and bomber assault on Potomac. And the Katyushka rocket launchers, right off the bat, got 3 hits. So that took out an infantry and the 2 bombers that were there to soak up hits in Potomac for the Germans. So after a major attack, all that's left in Potomac for the Axis is 2 assault guns and a mechanized infantry. The noose is greatly tightening, and there's follow-up forces for more attacks should they need them. and to create a strong ring around the city, because this coming round is Operation Winter Storm. So the Soviets have made just very, very minor headway back into the city, but the Germans spread themselves out to regain those RPs for the upcoming round. So they got as much RPs coming in as possible, even though it's left them awfully thin in there. But I think the Soviets, again, have snatched maybe at least a minor victory, going for Potomac, from the jaws of total defeat at the hands of the Axis forces. So what a turn of events over the last couple rounds. This has been another outstanding game. Let's see how round 10 goes. Okay, that was the end of round 10. We finally had cold weather, so the Don River froze. We're going into round 11. Stasis on the Stalingrad board. Paulus has fallen back from Potomac into Gumrock. Soviets still maintaining their small headway into the city there. And they did a small counteroffensive on the Army Group Don, who attacked in I'm not sure how to say that, and Verkhnikumsky. They almost destroyed everything, all the German forces in both. There was so much RPs that went into the formation of Army Group Don, just to see it reduced to 4 armored units and an infantry. Now, luckily, the Germans will still have a lot of money coming in from the city, but the Soviet forces around are a nice strong ring, and if they can fully dislodge the Army Group Don forces and then mop up west of the Don, that'll be a total victory for the Soviets. So again, what an insane swing. The Germans seemingly have snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, and the Soviets the opposite. This has been the most competitive game I've played of the Race to Stalingrad scenario by a very large margin, even if it may end in a Soviet total victory. Just how absolutely close on round 7 it was that the Germans came to total victory right then and there. So early on round 7, while Operation Uranus was being launched, they came in a hair's breadth of total victory on round 7. So wow, what a game. Now we're going into round 11, and it looks like fortunes have almost entirely switched. But another absolutely incredible game of Stalingrad going on right now. So let's see what turn 11 has in store for us. Okay, that was the end of round 11. Moving on to round 12. Soviets finally had bad weather again, so the Volga froze, moving artillery across the ice bridges towards the grain elevator and Pavlov's house. Germans have had to reposition some units to maybe push out of the city and help retake Potomac on this turn. The Soviets are dangerously close to getting a total victory, they did lose Rhinox, so they need that for a total victory. But they have Vertachi and Potomac, and they almost have everything west of the Don. So another tightly pitched battle continues, back and forth in Verkhnikumsky. Soviets have tanks in Termosin, the other Army Group Don entry point. Man, this is coming down to the wire. Round 12. The Germans have got to get themselves out of this bind. Luckily for them, they're getting a little bit more money, but because of what they've had to move around the city and pull some out, they're getting less money than they would, but the Soviets are only getting 4 right now. So, yeah, this is a real close one. I think the Soviets are going to pull through with the at least minor victory on Old Potomac, but let's see what the Germans have for them on turn 12. Okay, we have finished round 12, going into round 13. Soviets just have 1 mechanized infantry still moving through the city, and the Germans are thinner and thinner throughout the city as they've had to pull out a bunch to try to remove the Soviet conditions for total victory, which is controlling Rhinoc, Vertachi, and Potomac, as well as everything west of the Don. So they prevented the Soviets from getting a total victory, and they're going to try to launch some last-ditch assault on Potomac, because the minor victory for both sides is whomever controls Potomac. But the Soviets, instead of pushing a bunch through back to the west of the Don because that total victory condition is kind of gone now. They used road movement to move armor back into Potomac to kind of guarantee that they can hold it. I mean, clearly they'll be able to. I mean, the Germans don't even have enough dice to roll to destroy all those Soviet units there. And then today, before I started filming this last segment, I got German infantry division markers, Soviet unit markers, and guards markers, as well as Panzer division markers. I just thought it would be fun to throw them on for a little bit more flavor. Historically accurate, unknown. I just chose them at random. So thank you, Historical Board Gaming, for sending these. Always great products from them. So let's see what we threw on here. For the German, it's the 9th Infantry Division, Yanovskaya, and Kopania for the Soviets. The 7th Heavy Tank. Well, we chose at random. They don't have any tanks left. We'll just go with that. Over here, 39th something. Can't quite read it, but it looks cool. And then we upgraded some units to guards divisions for fun because, they've done such a good job holding here in Gromoslavka, preventing Army Group Dawn from being able to push towards Potomac. So I thought that would be kind of fun to retroactively upgrade them so they can thank Stalin for that. And the Stavka. And then we have the Panzer Division Norwegian over here in Vertachi trying to make that last push. But I think no matter what I do with the Germans on this round, even if they pull that, well, they can't pull that infantry out of the city, so I don't know why I moved them there. I guess I forgot with force multiplier they would have to come out in pairs because they go in as one and then double. So all they'll be able to roll is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dice against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units. So they can't kill the Soviet units in Potomac no matter what they do. And then, but the Soviets, they may still be able to achieve a total victory. But okay. Anyway, all that to say, we'll play out the round and see what happens. But all that to say, this game has been on round 7. It was crazy. The Axis were on the cusp, really the cusp. It was down to an attack, I think, at Pavlov's house for a total victory at round 7, and then on round 11, the Soviets were on the cusp of a total victory, and that has been stolen from them by clever German play. So, man, again, what an absolute game. Real back and forth, 2 juggernauts, another great one. So let's play out round 13 and see how this all ends. And there we go. That is the end of the game. End of round 13. Amazingly, we only had 2 bad weather rounds. Really crazy. So what we have here is the last Soviet mechanized infantry in Stalingrad was destroyed. The Germans have an extraordinarily tenuous hold on the city. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units in total, 1 being mechanized infantry. They were able to, it was kind of for fun. I didn't think there was any point in even attacking Potomac. Again, they didn't have enough units to kill anything there, so I tried to encircle them. Didn't quite have enough to cut off supply entirely, but almost would have still needed to get to Beketovka, and they just couldn't do that. They didn't have the movement allowance, but thought it was kind of fun with the Germans to encircle them there at the end. Last push by Army Group Dawn took Surovikino. Soviets took Verkhny-Kumsky and the airfield at Oblivskaya. So this ends, after all this, so close to a total victory for the Axis on round 7, so close to a total victory for the Allies, the Soviets, on round, I think, 11 it was. All this to end in a minor victory. The total victory conditions for the Germans would have been to have every RP zone in the city, which they do. Oh, wait. Holy smokes. RP zone in the city and to maintain a supply line out. Oh, wow. Actually, I'm just realizing this now. I think the Germans have achieved a total victory after all this. They own every RP zone, and they maintain a supply line out. Wait, do they? Let's see. They can go out through Rhinock. Rhinock goes... Wow, I think they do. So through Rhinock, to Rhinoc, Veritaci, Kalak, Novomoskov, Surakavino, and Tormosin. Oh my gosh! I think the Germans achieved a total victory by the skin of their teeth. Oh my god! I can't believe. Wow! I guess loading up in Tormosin, and then the Soviets, because they were in Gomosklavka, they couldn't have moved into Tormosin to take that and cut off that supply. They had the only place the infantry could move was Verkhny Kumsky. Wow, this blows my mind. I guess I didn't really intend for it, but all that movement I did with the Germans just to kind of encircle that Potomnik group actually created a supply line out of the northern part of the city, through Spartanovka, through Rhinoc, into Veritaci, into Kalak, into Novomovskov, into Surovikino, into Tormosin, and off the board via supply. Holy shoot. That was a total accident, but a happy accident in the German case. I thought this, when I was looking at it before I started recording this segment, I thought it was a minor Soviet victory for just holding Potomnik, because the Soviet major victory would have been to hold all 6 fortified zones in the city, which they obviously didn't do. The Germans hold the entirety of the city. And then a total victory for them would have been to control Rhinoc, Veritaci, and Potomnik, and everything west of the Don. So that wasn't going to happen. And if the Germans didn't have a total victory or a major victory, then they would have had to default to whomever controls Potomnik. And a major victory for the Germans is to control at least one RP zone and a supply line out. Let me just double check this total victory condition real quick and make sure I have it right, because this is a crazy end if so. Total victory for Axis. At the end of any round, control all RP zones on the city board and maintain a supply line into at least one RP zone on the city board. Yep, that's an Axis total victory. Holy smokes, after all that. That is by far the most competitive game I've played of this solo in Axis and Ally Stalingrad. And found a way to win convincingly, even if barely, only through maneuver on the last round. Wow. So, gosh, I didn't realize that as the Soviets. I guess the only thing I might have done differently with the Soviets, I would have tried to, let's see. If I was anticipating that, I probably would have kept more in Veritaci, right? And then I wouldn't have needed this in Bukhanovka. Would have needed that in Kalak, and would have needed something in Novomoskov, and we couldn't have moved in there with tanks. They had to pass through Surovikino, so we would have had 1, 2, 3, 4 defending against 1, 2, 3 tanks, 4, 5 tanks. Well, could they have held? Because you can trace supply line out of a contested zone. Let's roll it off real quick with this alternate setup. That I probably would have played with the Germans, right, if I'd done that more purposefully. And then with the Soviets, I for sure would attack this and try to destroy it to break that supply chain between Rhinoc and Kalak. So let's roll this real quick and see if the Soviets get enough hits. 1, 2, 3 for 3, 4, 5 for 3. Okay, that's 5. And then an assault, so we use rocket launcher, so we'll roll that one first, and then 1 for 1 for mechanized infantry. All right, here's for the rocket launcher, no hit. And here's the 5 for 3 and 1 for 1. And this would have been an assault from Potomnik into Veritaci, again, to break that supply chain that'll get the Axis their total victory. No hits. So it wouldn't have mattered what the Germans hit back, right? It would have been contested and supply would have flowed through it anyway. So yeah, this is a legitimate Axis total victory. Unbelievable. What an end. Even though Army Group Dawn didn't, I mean, they helped maintain the supply line open, so they did that. But the real bulk of the effort was 6th Army in Stalingrad taking it all, and 6th Army coming back out and reopening supply. Operation Thunderclap. Well done, Paulus. Let's put you back in Veritaci. You've done well. This is rather shocking. Another wonderful game. Thank you for sticking around for the next one. I'll be sure to have all the extra stuff set up, all those new Soviet and German unit markers that I got from historical board gaming. So Thanks again for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed this, and see you next time. Axis and Allies Stalingrad, race to Stalingrad.